Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Magic webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the supply chain management and the connected organization. We're going to be talking about business processes within supply chain and how to make the whole process more efficient. I'm David Bidlin, and I'm joined today with Joe De Silva, one of our senior solution architects. And just for the purposes of the webinar, your voices will be muted, and we're going to be followed by a live demo. Stock levels, number of employees, everything is growing. So let's say everything is looking like it's running smoothly. But is it really, if you consider the back end of the organization? Let's take a look at your business. So think about the various different entities within the company. So you start with the HQ, and that's linked to the warehouse. You may have multiple branches, suppliers, customers, and many others around the organization that are involved in the actual supply chain. So the actual business process is simple, but it's the back-end systems that become a little bit more complex because very often they don't communicate and they don't talk with each other. So the ultimate goal of any supply chain management is essentially to maintain efficiency as sales grow. But it's also about keeping the customers happy. So it's about providing the goods and services at the highest degree of customer satisfaction at the lowest possible cost. Essentially, what any type of organization is looking to achieve is customer satisfaction. The supply chain, it extends across multiple departments and functions within the organization. And that goes without saying that it's always extending, it's always changing, it's a very dynamic structure. So it's important to understand the structure within your organization to ensure that the processes are in place to cater for growth or any changes that are going to be coming about. So the warehouse and the sales departments are the two departments that are typically the most disconnected. And of course, the supply chain, as its name implies, is really only as strong as its weakest link. And any break in that chain is going to cause the whole process to fall down. So the main fundamentals is to ensure that stock is available to the sales team in order that they can make their sales and reach their targets and ensure revenue growth for the company, but then also to supply the stock to the clients quickly to keep your customers happy, to ensure that you're maintaining your existing customers and you're bringing on board new customers. It's essential to create that connection and maintain the connection between the warehouse and the sales team. So if you think of it from the customer perspective, think about a customer that buys a product. It could be from your website. They go onto the website, they place the order, 5 days later, the package arrives at their front door. They're very happy. So in the back end of that, there's a lot of processes that are taking place. So it could be an e-commerce system that's sitting in the cloud. That's got to check the stock levels on the warehouse system when an order gets placed. The warehouse management may be sitting in the cloud as well. That's creating a picking slip in the warehouse management system. Once that has been created, the whole supply chain kicks in terms of getting the stock out, building the invoicing, and then sending it out to the customer through deliveries. And of course, that order needs to be created in the CRM, all linking together. So these are multiple entities within the organization that really need to be linked up together to ensure efficient supply chain management. Of course, the systems could be Magenta, for example, Oracle, SAP. There could be multiple different types of systems, and essentially they always are. There's always going to be different types of systems for different functions. So every system that you get, it's been designed and coded very differently from the bottom up. Every system has got different APIs. So even though they are meant for working on their own, They are built to interface with other systems as well, but the APIs that are available are always very different on each system. But every system has also got different types of fields. So the fields, even though they may be common across multiple systems, they could be distinguished differently in terms of how they're identified. And of course, it just means that every system is essentially completely different. So what's the approach? How can you actually try and approach all those different systems to ensure that you're getting that continuity in the supply chain and that all these systems are linked up together? Well, this approach really is business process orchestration. So it's orchestrating the integration between the systems. So it's not just point-to-point integration. It's more about looking at the whole process and orchestrating that. If you think about the customer again in the middle, the customer sits in the CRM system. And these days, the CRM system is becoming more and more important. Typically, historically, it's always been either the MRP or the ERP system that have maintained the information about financing and invoicing and stock. But these days, it's becoming more and more important around the actual CRM, about the customer, keeping the customer happy. So if you think that the CRM system, you can create some type of business process layer underneath that CRM. It means that any action that's going to integrate between the multiple systems can be built within that business process and then used by any other system as well. So it's creating a central point to be able to utilize all the different actions within the company. So that could be Salesforce, for example. It could be any other system. Let's consider again each of the monolithic applications in the company. So I say monolithic because they are, as I said, designed very differently and also designed in a way that they can act independently. So it works from the top down. Each system can work as in its own. But in any organization, essentially it doesn't work that way because a business process works across the systems. So an example business process within the supply chain environment, you consider the CRM system needs to link into the finance, going into logistics, the warehouse management, and that's going to have multiple steps within that business process. And that could be automated processes. It could be point-to-point integration, but it could also mean manual actions, such as a person picking up a piece of paper and walking over to a colleague's desk and providing them with that transaction to process. And all of that, that's part of the supply chain and the business process, and it all needs to be accommodated and considered. So each of those steps are different action points. So if we think of those integration points as particular action points, then it allows us to view them in a different way. So we take all of those action points out, and let's think about that business process layer. Rather than action points, we talk about business processes. Okay, so once you've got that business process layer, all those different action points become part of the actual layer from the business process. And what that means then is that you can utilize those as actual objects, which you can reuse for other functions as well. So it's not only for one particular business process, but there's going to be many business processes. And each of those objects or functions can then be reused once they've been identified, designed, and put into that business process layer. So once you have established that and you've got that business process layer, it means that there's an unlimited number of functions that can be performed. One really good example is mobility. If you think about companies that are going digital and mobile, it's a forefront for many companies. So once that's, with those business processes and that business function there, you can actually create an enterprise mobile app. And all it means is taking that You can start a particular project. You can design the front end based on those particular applications. So the front end is just a screen showing the information that needs to be displayed, but all that information is coming from the back-end systems, from that business process layer. So creating a mobile app again, you can easily create it using an application that allows you to start the project, goes through a theme wizard where you can set up the type of theme that you want, setting up the forms that you want, and then any particular logic that you want within those forms, going into the wizard where it generates that logic. You can simulate it, have a look what it looks like for each user, depending on the type of user that's going to be using it, and then easily deploy and enjoy it and use it. It becomes a simple process. Once you've got those business processes in place, it's far easier to think about mobility, linking up to all those different systems within the organization. Again, coming back to those action points. So this is a type of dashboard that you can use for those business processes. This is a dashboard that may be used by one particular user within the organization, but there's multiple types of users and they want different types of information. So if you think about somebody that is using a tablet, they'll have information displayed in a different way, as will a user that's using a smartphone. So each user can customize and set up their own interfaces and designs according to what they need to see, when they need to see it. All of this information can be in real time once you've got those business processes set up. So it all starts from that business process layer and orchestrating those that integration, those integration points to be able to achieve something like this, and it is quite easily possible. So this is how Magic can help any type of organization that is looking to automate business processes within supply chain management, but also within other sectors for finance, for advertising, media. Any type of organization will require these types of automated business processes. Before we go on to questions, I'm going to hand over to Joe, who's going to provide you with a demo. And this is just a brief demo. It's going to outline the integration as according to the steps that I've described, just showing how an integration project can easily be set up and deployed. We'll be looking at two completely different systems. I think in this case it will be Salesforce and SAP. Is that correct, Joe? Is that right?
That's right.
Yes. So we'll be looking at Salesforce and SAP as an example. But of course, these are systems that could be any type of ERP or CRM solution. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Joe. Over to you, Joe.
Okay, thank you, David. So let me start with typical CRM situation where you might be creating an opportunity and then just setting up its details, let's say customer, product, etc. And that is a normal day-to-day activity on your CRM. So as I'm saving this information, if you look at the details, here I have one sales order with some product, and I have other details, normal day-to-day to that order. We'll just make some changes here. And I could be just updating or inputting all the information necessary. What I don't have here is any sales order number, even though I just closed that opportunity and mark it as one. So this is a process that needs to happen behind the scenes. So as a CRM user, I'm working here, and I need to some events, some processes here to be triggered back into other systems. If I look at this example here, I have the SAP running on the other side, and what I wanted to see is a sales order to be created here as a result of that opportunity processing happening. What's going on in the background? I have something running here. This is not something that you normally would see. This is just a process that creates opportunity in the background. And this can be defined by a design process that was created here beforehand. So this is a studio where a developer will create things in a flow, in a sequence that must be obeyed by the backend process. I'll detail that in a second. But going back just to the process that I was showing, something is happening in the background. And this is defined by let me show you here, by this studio where you can create all the integration details. So you define which systems needs to be talking to each one, what are the inputs, what is the process to be followed, and what is the output. And here, just to show you another example, I could have, let's say, one of the interest would be run a component that look into all those input systems, look for any duplicate customer, and then take some action. That action could be a report, could be an automatic action into those originating systems, let's say eliminate duplicates, or it could be displaying on a mobile device certain level of scoring for the user then to take action and decide what to do or not. So this is provided by a list of components that come out of the box that you use to then talk and define which systems talk to which one, or which process or which services. Everything in that sense comes down to mapping one source or multiple sources to a destination or multiple destinations. And that could mean if you're talking to your ERP into your CRM or vice versa, you only see those the data that each one exposes, and then you, even with the mouse dragging and dropping, you program that process to then do something. So you are presented with a list of wizards that allows you to do that integration. And before I give you a bit more technicality, let's just go back to my process and see what's happening there. Let's see. Yeah, so I have an order that was created 14303, and if I go to my SAP, I go to 14303, and that will show, that should come up with a sales order, and here it is. So you have a sales order that's been created as a result of that backend processes that were defined here, simply mapping what information goes where. And just to wrap up, the technology behind this allows you a lot of flexibility in terms of scalability, recovery. So a lot of infrastructure that normally it takes a while for you to be able to implement, that comes out of the box and can dynamically and visually again being added into the processes. So if you need more machines, for example, to process on a specific date or time of the year, you can just add and remove machines in a hot swap manner, and also that will scale in any volume of data, memory, distribution, backup, self-recovery. So these are relatively hidden, but my point is that you can very easily add and remove those dynamically and graphically. Okay, so that's just a very quick idea. If you really want something that's more detailed for your situation, please contact us and we can develop a demo made bespoke for you. Back to you, David.
Great, thank you, Joe. That was a great demo. It really was just a quick window to see what can be achieved in terms of integration. And of course, this was just one type of demo that we do have, and we cater for some very large types of integration projects. One of the questions that we do have is asking which CRM systems do you support? Okay, so the CRM systems, we've got a list of connectors or certified connectors for a range of systems, both ERP, CRM, other things like SharePoint, a range of systems. But even if we don't have a certified connector, we do have a range of adapters. We've got web services, and we can access any type of system through the method that the particular system requires. So whether it's through web services, API, we can access any type of system. So there's typically, because we're an integration company, which is part of what we do, there's no limitation into what we can get into. Okay, we are approaching the top of the hour. I'm going to have to draw an end to the webinar. Contact us with any further questions that you do have, and please, anything that you want, if you wanted a customized demo, as Joe mentioned, we can provide that to you as well. So thank you once again, and that's the end of today's webinar. Thank you.